Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special edition of Two Legs, a Paul McCartney podcast. But that's not today's topic. I am one of your two co hosts, Andy Nichols, and joining me today are two dear Beatles community friends and content creators of mine, Jonathan from Ranking and Vinyl Benjy. Hi, guys.
Howdy.
Hey, Andy, what's going on?
Doing great. Now, you might be wondering, what's this? What are these guys doing on this show? Well, I've been on Ranking, and I've been a follower of Vinyl Benjy's legendary Instagram account. Give him a follow if you don't follow him already. Today, we are doing a very special show about a very special person, because if you are musically literate in 2025, you owe a big debt of gratitude to Brian Douglas Wilson. And Paul McCartney undoubtedly would agree with that, which is why if he ever watched this show, which I don't think he does, but if he did, he would endorse this fully. Jonathan and Vinyl Benjy are just awesome Beach Boys fans. I've seen their postings. I've seen especially you, Benjy, some of your collection. I know how much of an avid fan and admirer of the Beach Boys and Brian Wilson you are. So I felt, listen, in light of Brian's passing just a few weeks ago, it would be nice to pay tribute to him here with us doing a great show about Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys in general, right?
Yeah.
Agreed.
Agree.
I mean, have you guys been able to do any shows or podcasts or anything about since the passing? Because I know, like, Jonathan, watching your stories on Instagram, like, you were deeply moved. I could tell by his passing with the songs and the tributes. I know you were really moved by it.
Yeah. I really wanted to do something, and like I was saying earlier, I just didn't have the time. We haven't even had the time to do Ranking the Beatles podcast lately, let alone standalone. But and we were leaving town right after he passed. But yeah, his passing like hit me really hard. Like, he's been a big influence of mine for a long time. I've mentioned it on our show before. The irony is that the Beatles are my favorite band, and I have a Beatles podcast, but Pet Sounds is hands down my favorite album. Like, that's far and away the winner. And as a musician, his work has influenced me in so many ways, like direct creative ways, but also just in like the mental capacity of, trying to approach something that's such a high watermark. Just as a lofty goal of, if you could even land in the ballpark of where something that he did might be, then you've done really well. Mm-hmm. So I'd wanted to do something. And so when you reached out about doing this, I was really ecstatic to get a chance to do it.
Great. I'm glad. And I think Brian Wilson and the music of the Beach Boys, at some point or another in all of our lives, we spent a good number of time just immersed in that music. We went down rabbit holes probably for months or years and listened to and read it all. I can say I haven't done it in a long time, because I probably spent 5 years listening to nothing but Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys, probably when Brian's version of Smile came out around 2004, 5-ish. So I really had absorbed everything up until about 2010 when he did that Gershwin album. Yeah. And after Lucky Old Son, which was probably one of his best solo records ever.
For sure.
Right. So, it took a little bit of a break from it, but obviously when an icon passes, you think about all the time you invested in learning and appreciating the genius of what Brian Wilson is. And I think one of the enduring things that we all love about him is that he endured, he lasted, he overcame so much. Out of all the Wilson brothers who were expected to go, he was the last one.
Finally. And that leads exactly to my thoughts and feelings upon hearing the news of his passing. On one hand, I wasn't shocked because of his journey and because of all the struggles he went through, mental health, physical health, the rest. But on the other hand, I was surprised because he survived so much. And I guess in my mind, or in the back of my mind, I just didn't want to think about the day where he would leave this earth. And I just was hoping and praying that he could continue to beat the odds.
Yeah. It's one of those things that, listen, it's unbeaten, right? It's all going to come for us sooner or later. And Brian, the fact that he made it to 82 was a miracle. And thank God he had the support of his second wife, Melinda, to help him through, get him out of that, horrible period that he was in, to give us some wonderful music over the last 20 years of his life. And the touring. And all the touring, people got a chance to go see Brian Wilson. Okay, yes, he might have been in a limited capacity, But if you saw the Beach Boys 50th in 2012, that was an amazing concert. Jonathan, were you at one of those shows?
I was. The first show of their tour was here in New Orleans, actually, at the Jazz Fest, and I had been fortunate enough to see him. I think I think 2 or 3 times prior to that, and never thought I would see him with the Beach Boys. So that was really an amazing, you know, opportunity to get to see that lineup together. It wasn't necessarily my favorite of the times that I saw him, but it was definitely. I mean, that's pretty special seeing those guys back together for that last time.
Let's talk, kind of introductions to and when you really first, because everybody I think discovers the Beach Boys through the hits, right? And people can kind of take that on the surface and go, sure, I like the Beach Boys, I like the hits, and that's it. Which is, of course, a great introduction to get to that. Of course, that great compilation from 1974 that comes out, Endless Summer, is a great entry point for anybody to start and get that musical vocabulary down. But then where you go from there depends on where you're at in your musical education. Are you ready to keep going? So, Benjy, tell us about your background and introduction to the Beach Boys.
Well, just kind of like you said, I got into the Beach Boys through my parents. We had this compilation, The Greatest Hits. It's one of many greatest hits, but this one, it was from the early 2000s. It had, the orange with the water coming out of it on the cover with the female's head on it. There was a part 1 and 2 and a 3. But yeah, the first compilation in that series, that was my introduction to the Beach Boys. And that was a consistent listen my whole life. It wasn't until the 50th anniversary year, 2012, I wasn't, I only knew the hits, but I was still very excited for all the hubbub surrounding the reunion. It was incredible. And so it was from there that I really started to get into their individual albums. And slowly but surely, I really finally listened to Pet Sounds more than ever. Beach Boys Stay became a favorite of mine. Sunflower became my absolute favorite Beach Boys album. Unfortunately, I missed the 50th anniversary tour, and that's still something I regret to this day. I missed that tour. I was younger. I was in high school, but I just never got around to buying a ticket. Didn't have money. It's not easy to get my parents to want to go to a concert.
Right.
But despite missing the show, I'm still very lucky that 2012 in that sense was a very transformative year for me. And when Brian Wilson passed, the photo I knew I wanted to share first, which is a photo I've shared a bunch on Vinyl Benjy before, is one of the very first photos I have of myself holding a record. And one of the very earliest records I bought, which was the California Girls Let 'Em Run Wild 45. Yeah. And I took it right there, actually, right around here. You could kind of see my shelf in the background right there. It's right around here I took the photo. And that just shows you how long the Beach Boys have been in my life, how excited I am about the music and to have them in my life. And their music doesn't get old.
It doesn't. And you really can just kind of put them in two camps, though, in terms of fandom. And that's what I love learning about is everybody's journey and saying, you've finally gotten Pet Sounds. Okay. Now, why do you then take the dive to then go to Smile and Friends and 2020 and Surf's Up and all those albums later on? Because that really distinguishes the bunch. So I laugh when I see people going, I like the Beach Boys. I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. Have another drink. Get out of my face.
Wait till you get to Ding Dang. That.
Yeah. I'm so glad that they've embraced the weirdness and the joy of Ding Dang.
Oh, 100%.
That makes me so happy.
That's one of the things I love about the Beach Boys. There's not just Ding Dang. There's a lot of weirdness in the Beach Boys. And some of my best videos and posts that I've done on Vinyl Benjy revolve around the weirdness.
The weird stuff.
The weird stuff. People don't give enough credit for that. There's actually... I have a recording this. I recorded it. I did a screen recording on my phone somewhere of one of the in-between song promo bits from the Beach Boys station on Sirius.
Oh.
And it said something like, if you want a song about sun, you want a song about surfing, you want a song about girls, you want a song about vegetables, here's the Beach Boys channel. It's something like that. And that really, that promo for the Beach Boys station really captures the essence of the Beach Boys. It captures most of the summer stuff, but then there's
And
a little bit of
the weirdness,
a
right?
little bit of weird.
You should make your next video about like Solar System and put that in there.
Yeah. There's a great cover of that Alex Chilton did. That's on. There's a record that came out a few years ago where he was playing somewhere in New York, and the power went out before he played. So he just grabbed an acoustic guitar and sat in the front of the stage and played acoustic for about an hour, and just did a whole bunch of random covers. And he did Solar System, and it's like fantastic. Like he just. That's just one of the songs that was in his repertoire. He just pulled out Solar System of all things. It's like, wow, that's amazing.
The wacky stuff. And Brian Wilson did once say that was his favorite album. I know he changed sometimes his opinion on that sometimes. But sometimes he said Friends, and sometimes he said Pet Sounds, and sometimes he said Love You. But depending on what Brian Wilson you were speaking to at the time. Great stuff, Benjy. John, tell us about your introductions to the Beach Boys and where you're at the age and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I came up with the hits like everybody else. I know, Andy, you and I are closer in age than Benjy and I. So for me, it was hearing them on oldies radio. The songs were placed in movies like Teen Wolf, things like that. So just like the hits were kind of like the Beatles, standards were just kind of always around forever. And I don't know if you are familiar with the songwriter named Butch Walker at all, if either of y'all know him. I've been a big fan of his for a long time, and he had this band in the late 90s called the Marvelous Three. Then they broke up and he went solo. And I remember reading an article. I think I was a sophomore in college, maybe like somewhere between. Yeah, I was a sophomore. And I read this article where he talked about how Pet Sounds was this big influence on this record he was making at the time. And so I was kind of like, I'd heard about Pet Sounds and knew there was something to it, but I never dove in. And so I decided, just based on this interview, I was like, well, maybe I'll check this record out. And I went to, I think it was Best Buy, and I bought a copy of Pet Sounds. And at the time, I was 19, and I had just gotten dumped from like my first real relationship. My first like real like breakup where I got dumped. And I put this record on, and by the time it was maybe halfway done, I just had to pull my car over and just cry, because it was just like, it hit every feeling I could have felt at that time. And it just like sunk its teeth into me so perfectly. And I must have listened to it for months on repeat, and started kind of diving into like the early corners of early aughts internet, and found like the Smiley Smile forum, and then tried to figure out, okay, well, what is Smile? What is Smiley Smile?
Oh, that was a great forum.
Yeah, and like tried to figure out the math on that. And so then I got a bootleg of Smile that I think I bought on eBay from somebody, and it just blew my head off. Like, it was the weirdest thing I'd ever heard, but it was also just like enthralling. And so I just listened to it constantly. And from there, kind of stretched and worked my way back into like the stuff that I heard was like the precursor to Pet Sounds. So your stuff on like Beach Boys Today and Summer Days, Summer Nights and things like that. And then got Smiley Smile, and then Friends. And then in the area where Brian kind of pulls back, I didn't really dive into that until maybe my mid 20s. And then it was like, oh, well, God, this is all great stuff too. And then you get into like even like the weirder stuff. And it's just so and even in the last maybe 5 years, I've kind of started to make my way past Love You into like, well, what are we doing at the late, like, do I really want to give LA Light album a listen? Maybe today I'll try that, and kind of made my way to like the 80s, the late 70s, early 80s stuff in the last 5 years. So it's been kind of an ongoing journey. And for me, it's always been about Brian's involvement. Like, how much is Brian into it?
Right. Yeah. How much, if Brian's not really involved in those late 70s, early 80s Beach Boys albums, and we know that it was very minimal, although there's some wonderful tracks. And Lady Linda is a fantastic track.
Oh, I love Lady Linda.
Great track.
One of my favorites. I mean, I've always been a Beach Boys fan. I love Brian Wilson, obviously, but I've always wanted to make sure I give enough attention and credit to their band members.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Even Mike Love, who people like to hate on, he's contributed a lot to that band, and he definitely deserves some praise.
He absolutely does.
Even whether or not him as a person might be, that's one thing, but there's no doubt he really contributed a lot to that band. But one of my favorite songs from that late 70s period, which is a period of Beach Boys I'm still getting into as well, is Match Point of Our Love.
Yes. That's one of my top 10. Like,
I've been on a yacht.
Is it really?
Yes, that song is so good.
What album is that
It's on? I think it's on MIU, right?
MIU. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know that song.
I've been on a yacht rock kick this year. And to me,
It's
that
totally
is
yacht
such
rock.
a great underrated yacht rock gem.
Yes. Like, that was one that in the last couple of years, as I've dug into those records, like, I heard that it must have been on the Sirius channel, and I was just like, what is this from? And then I saw it was on MIU, and it's like, but how does he sound so good here? Because his voice is trashed everywhere else at that time. But then he turns in this beautiful vocal over this kind of like four on the floor, almost disco melody with like very yacht rock vibe chord changes. I think the lyrics are all Mike Love, and it's like equating a tennis match to romance. It's kind of cheesy, but it's like a gorgeous performance, and it's just so nice and understated.
Yeah,
total yacht rock.
I have to listen. I got to check that one out.
Yeah,
the MIU, that's one that I've skipped over a little bit. I know the one song. There's a couple good songs on there, but it's funny, Jonathan. You and I are kind of on the same page with the late '70s and the '80s stuff, where you're just kind of, let me actually put on "Keeping Summer Alive" or the self-titled one from '85. There's a gem on that one called "She Believes in Love Again."
Yeah, that one's
that I think Carl sings.
Oh, I know. I am still mainly getting into the late '70s stuff, but the '85 self-titled album has been a guilty pleasure of mine for a long time now. Production is dated for sure, but I still can't help but love it.
Male Ego.
Male Ego is great. I love California Calling. The Only Matter of Time.
Can we agree on, though, that Still Cruising is the low point of the discography?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Summer in Paradise.
No.
I think Summer in Paradise.
Summer in Paradise. Summer in Paradise. I don't know why I confused the two in my head. Yeah, no. Summer in Paradise.
Okay.
Huge low point. No, Still Cruising has some gems. In My Car, I love that song.
All right.
Which one's got Summer of Love on it? Is that
Kokomo?
Which one has Summer of Love? Is that
Summer in Paradise, right?
Or is that Summer in Paradise?
I can't wait for that summer of love.
It's a love thing.
No, that's Summer in Paradise. No, yeah, that's yeah.
Man, they're so it's funny how that period is where, like, but again, there are gems to be found, but we're all not quite there yet.
There's always something that you'll find.
There are gems. Even Summer in Paradise. Even Summer in Paradise. I like their cover of Hot Fun in Summertime. That's a good cover.
Yeah.
That's a good cover.
Let's dial it back about a decade.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the glory years, okay? Let's go back to Pet Sounds. And that's another one where you watch content creators, and there's a guy out there who's a pretty well-known YouTuber. He attends fests. I'm not going to mention him by name, but he and I have this battle all the time, whether it's in person or on the phone, about Pet Sounds. He can't stand it. And I'm just like, what planet are you living on? Listen, did I love Pet Sounds at first? No, I did not. I was probably in my 20s, kind of like you, Jonathan, where it finally clicks, right? You know the big hits, but then you sit with that record and you go start to finish, and it changes your life. How do people not get that?
I guess some people just automatically turn off. They don't want to listen to records that they might consider to be overrated. Where did Jonathan go?
We lost Jonathan.
Talk shit about Jonathan, okay? Kidding.
You're back.
Hey,
you froze.
What happened?
I don't know. I just lost my internet. Everything went away.
Why people like to shit on Pet Sounds, and because it's very cool. It's a cool take to have because everybody else likes it, and they're not necessarily listening to it. Have you encountered people like that? And you're like, man, this album is fantastic. What are you listening to? Have you had that, John?
I've only had it with, honestly, some like older folks that my dad kind of grew up hanging around with, and they were kind of like, oh, we were more into the Stones. The Beach Boys were sissies. We like the Stones. Beatles are sissies. We're Stones fans. Like, that's really about the only kind of response I've heard like that.
Right. So, and I will say that it did take, Paul McCartney's endorsement of the album for me to then, okay, if Paul's saying this, maybe I should sit down with this record. Because I believe when it was first issued on CD, he's in there in the liner notes talking about it, how he's, nobody's really educated musically till you hear Pet Sounds. I'm like, okay, at that point, Christmas list. Mom, Dad, I want the Pet Sounds box set sessions in 1997. Thank you.
Yeah.
And spend, a year listening to that whole stuff. So that's where it really begins. And that is the part of the story that people just either get it or they don't get it. Going on from that point into the Smile stuff, I think that's one of the things that appeal to me about the story of Brian Wilson is the tragedy and the sadness of it. Here's a guy that knows popular music is changing. Okay, but the suits and the pressures from the band want to just keep them in this box, right? And this is what you're supposed to sound like. The Beatles can do it, but you can't. And when you watch Inside Pop, The Rock Revolution by Leonard Bernstein, and you see Brian Wilson playing Surf's Up, you're like, this is magical. This is where music is going. And he gets it. Yeah. And that's one of the things that attract me to wanting to learn more about the Beach Boys, all the biographies, what happened and why, because the music was so incredible. Starting with, Pet Sounds, but obviously before that, as Benji mentioned, with even like the Forerunner with Beach Boys Today and things like that. You see it starting to happen. And he's like, okay, music is changing. Let's do it. And then, no, it doesn't happen. And that, I think, is one of why people get drawn in. And they're like, look at this guy, what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so cool, despite Smile not coming out back then, they did still do something different. Smiley Smile may have not been well received back then, but it has grown in respect, as well as Wild Honey and Friends. They even when they failed to change, turn the page and do something different, they still managed to do exactly that, just in a very different way, just in a way that people were not ready for.
Yeah, they basically invent like lo-fi home recording with Smiley Smile and Wild Honey.
Right.
Yeah.
The genre that we see now as like bedroom lo-fi recording is that
honky tonk piano that they use on Wild Honey. I absolutely love the sound of that thing.
Yes.
It's on the whole record.
For years, I've been waiting for someone to come out with like a sample that I can use in recording to get that piano sound. Because it's basically like a detuned piano.
It sounds detuned, right?
How is it detuned? Like, what way did you do it? Like, how did you have it done? Like, teach me your ways, because I need that sound. It's so good.
Right. And that version that came out of Surf's Up on the Smile Box sessions, where it's just this 1967 version on the Wild Honey piano, might be one of the most amazing performances of that song.
It's absolutely incredible. I never really thought about that piano, but now that you mention it, I could definitely see how much it impacted the sound of Wild Honey, and that version of Surf's Up too. It just, I guess if you're looking at it in a metaphorical, symbolic way, people may have thought that the Beach Boys were not the same band that they used to be. There was this little glimmer of hope left for, Brian still had a little bit in him. He still, he still had love and music to give.
Even then, so like they don't play Monterey Pop. They just basically retreat to Brian's house to record these albums. And as you mentioned, Jonathan, lo-fi home recording. Like people want to say that's what McCartney did with his own first album and Ram. Ram was a totally polished production album that was recorded in New York and LA. I hate how Ram, people think Ram is a homemade thing. It's not. It was a professionally made record in New York. But this same thing with the Beach Boys going into that direction, the public has turned their back on them. They are just going to lock it down and just try to get through the rest of the 60s and try to remain relevant. And as we learned, not so much in this country, but in England, they took off at this period. And that became like their home base. Isn't that right, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so.
There's a great documentary of them playing over there and doing kind of little like early promotional clip type things. And it's really like individual like videos of them like just walking through the snow to Little Bird or something like that. But a very cool kind of like nouveau art thing that you would see at that point in the 60s for like creating like little videos.
Yeah. And you could just see, like, I love when I was reading all the history of the Beach Boys and stuff, how the UK just took them on and said, okay, you're not gonna be popular in the US, we'll take Sunflower. And the UK adores Sunflower. They even, some people called the Beach Boys Sgt. Pepper.
I love Sunflower so much.
Let's spend a few minutes on Sunflower. I think we should.
Yeah.
What a magical record. I mean, is it the Beach Boys Sgt. Pepper? I don't know if I'm going to put it up there, but it's definitely a top 5 Beach Boys record.
For sure.
It shows that they didn't just need Brian to make a good record. You know, they were all able to contribute incredible things, incredible songs, incredible harmonies. It's just a true collaborative effort, and the songs that they did in those sessions that did make it onto the album as well. I mean, Al, none of Al's songs really were on that album. He doesn't really have much lead vocal, but he did a lot of songs in those sessions that came out as singles and were released later on. That just shows you. I mean, they all contributed incredible things.
What a beauty!
Yeah,
I love that cover. I have a few copies back there.
That version of Big Sur that's recorded for that record is so much better than the version they put out.
I agree,
and it's just so pretty. It's so good.
That's one of the songs I chose for my list.
Nice. Well done. It's just so good.
I think it was actually, I used to think that too. I actually think it was recorded for Surf's Up. But
was it Surf's Up? Okay,
I believe Surf's Up. Yeah, I used to think it was Sunflower too, based on the overall feel goodness of it versus what ends up on Surf's Up.
What was so sad about this is that they had left Capitol. Brother Records is formed. This was their first new album on their new label, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's all this excitement and enthusiasm for a new record. And it just dies on the vine. I think it got to like 150 or something in the charts when it came out. And it was so poorly. I don't know if it was marketed right by Brother and Warner, because it was Warner, I guess, at that point that was handling the promotion of it. But it's a shame because, I mean, tracks like, obviously Dennis shines here with Forever.
Dennis comes through so big on this record.
And Bruce too. Bruce and Dennis both have amazing songs. Deirdre,
Tears in the Morning, Deirdre.
It's Bruce's favorite record too.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why people really start to get into it. I've heard many clips of Bruce talking about how great this album is, and I think from there, I think that's where it really started to.
Yeah, when that documentary Endless Harmony came out, that's when Bruce makes that comment, and I think then you really saw. That's when, if you notice, Jonathan, you'll remember, like around 2000, 2001, the Twofers became available on CD for the first time because you couldn't get Sunflower or Surf's Up or Color in the Passion, but I think the Beach Boys rode the wave of that documentary that came out. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen it too. Benji, you're probably too young. Jonathan, I think you know.
I have the CD, but I haven't seen the doc. I haven't seen it.
In 1995, there was this biopic called An American Family on
Oh, I have seen that. No, I've seen that.
You have.
It's so good.
It's wild.
That's crazy. So I think
the beards, the fake beards are so bad.
The fake music the fake music they had to make for the smile, for the depiction of Smile.
Oh, it's hard.
Yeah.
But I do think that a reason that albums like Sunflower and Surf's Up picked up traction was because of that kind of riding the wave of momentum. Because I even remember going, wow, okay, now the Beach Boys have another documentary coming out. It's like almost 1999, 2000. Boom, now you get all these albums out. And like, okay, it was like, okay, the Twofers, though, I was like, why are we getting two albums on one CD? I felt cheap. I wanted them one CD. I was like so annoying by that.
And that's when you started to get like stuff from the vaults too, I think a bit more. Like the box set with like kind of like the wooden surfboard came out. I think it was just called Good Vibrations.
Good Vibrations. The 30th anniversary. I have that somewhere.
Yeah, there was like a Hawthorne, California collection.
That
like
was a compilation.
Yeah.
We could have our own show on compilations on Beach Boys because there's about 200.
Yeah, we just need Exotic Fred for that. He could help us go through all those tracks.
Right.
But you mentioned the Good Vibrations box, which was really cool because that was the first time any of the Smile stuff first came out. So that was really like, wow, okay, we're finally going to get some of the Smile stuff. Offhand, do you remember what tracks from Smile made it out on that box set? Was it Love to Say Da Da? And
I think that's on there.
I think the intro of Fire, Vegetables, Wonderful. Let
us consult the great internet.
Yeah, let's
just having a quick scan of the old iTunes library here.
Yep. I don't think they have that on Apple Music.
No, they don't. I ripped it.
Oh, there you go.
Everything on here was ripped, decades ago.
There you go.
I got the box set, so I can let's see.
Tell us, Benji.
Yeah, so here are the Smile tracks. Drum roll. No, you don't have to drum roll. Our Prayer.
Yep.
Well, Good Vibrations, the single version, but whatever.
Right.
Our Prayer. Notice this is important too because Our Prayer was released on 2020, but they did further overdubs. This is the overdub free version. Heroes and Villains, March's alternate version, but I think we now know this as Heroes and Villains Part 1.
Okay.
Heroes and Villains Sections. This was remixed into stereo for the Smile box set.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. Wonderful. Same exact version as what got on the Smile Sessions.
Right.
Cabin Essence, which was on 2020. I'm not sure if this mix is different.
That, to my memory, sounds kind of similar.
Yeah. Wind Chimes.
Okay.
Which I think this version is different from on.
Right.
The version on the Smile Sessions combines the takes. I think this one just uses the one take. What's marked as Heroes and Villains intro is actually what we now know as the intro to Fire.
Oh.
Do you like Worms?
That's really like the bulk of the album.
It really is when you think of it. I always thought it was like 2 or 3 tracks. It's like
it's almost the whole record.
Wait, there's more. It's Vegetables. This very similar to what came out on the Smile Sessions, but there's still some differences.
Right.
There's still some noticeable differences there. Love to Say Dada.
Right.
It doesn't have the water. It goes with, it starts with the yeah.
They saved that for this.
Yeah. And then Surf's Up, and this is just the Brian Wilson demo.
Okay.
The double track demo, which they used the vocals of that for the Smile Sessions version.
Mm-hmm.
And that disc ends with Me Tonight, which is from Smile to Smile. So that doesn't, yeah.
That's a lot of Smile on that
box. It is a lot of
1993. A lot more than I remembered. Holy crap.
Yeah. A lot more than I would have remembered too, actually. Yeah.
Let's put it in context with Smile. And just from my perspective, I'm Jonathan and Benjy. I want to see where you guys weigh in on this. For me, I went down the Smile rabbit hole after Brian Wilson's version of the album came out. I had heard a couple of tracks, as Benjy just mentioned, on Good Vibrations. But when it was presented in Brian's vision, I think I played that CD nonstop for like a year and a half. Without even touching the Beach Boys version. I was so amazed by the Wonderments, his backing band, and Brian doing that album that I don't think I touched the Beach Boys stuff until the Sessions box came out in 2011. I mean, because that was very important for me because finally the album came out in his vision. Did it have the same effect for either of you, or you guys were always straight Beach Boys Smile?
I was when Brian Wilson Presents Smile came out. We had the CD. We still have the CD, but my dad got it. He didn't really like it. He still doesn't really get that album too much. And I was definitely too young to appreciate it. I do remember putting it onto my iPod. I saw there was a version of Good Vibrations, and the first thing that caught my attention were the different lyrics, which was odd to me at the time.
Sure.
But it wasn't until the Smile Sessions came out that I really started to appreciate it, and I started listening to it hell of a lot. And of course, eventually I started to really appreciate Brian Wilson Presents Smile. And I love both versions a lot. Considering what they had and what they may have not had, the fact that they were to put something together with whatever was left to the Beach Boys is rather impressive. But of course, Brian Wilson Presents Smile is what it could have been. And it's so much more epic in many ways as a result.
Cool. Jonathan?
I listened to I had a couple of bootleg CDs of Smile before Brian's version came out. And then when his came out, I kind of just stuck with that for a while as like the official statement on it.
Sure.
And I really loved that record. I really loved the way it came together. It feels like it's made with love. Like it's like that tangible, that like intangible thing that you just feel kind of coming off that record. Like everyone is there to like make this thing happen for Brian. So it feels really good as opposed to, maybe there's a hint of places in Smile where like, not everyone's not on the same page. So like maybe that joy doesn't come across the same way as it does, I think, on the Brian version. But then when they came out with the Smile Sessions box, I bought that and, I'm just enamored by all that material. It's so good. Like it's such another level of artistry. It's hard to disagree with some of the guys not understanding it because it's so next level. You're like, okay, yeah, I get it. Like not everybody can get this kind of stuff. Like it's really difficult music, but it's done so beautifully. It's just unreal,
And even for me, it took me a while to really understand some of those lyrics. I don't still don't understand all those lyrics. You know,
Yeah,
you can't blame
yeah.
them
No.
for not liking over and over the crow cries uncovered the cornfield. You know, what the hell does that mean? Look,
No, you can't decipher them, but you don't have to because it sounds great.
Yeah.
exactly.
That's why we like it. We don't have to worry about what the lyrics mean. And go ahead, Benji.
One thing we'll say about the Smile box set. I got my box set a few years after it came out. It was thankfully still available on Amazon. Since then, I've gotten a lot of incredible deluxe releases. I could see behind me. To this day, the Smile Sessions deluxe box set is still one of my absolute favorites.
Yeah.
The stuff it comes with, the nice array, it has the CDs, it has the records, it has a nice book, it has a poster, it has 45s. Just a beautiful.
Never mind that shit.
Set.
Where's your Cube and Harrison crate? Where's your Harrison?
Don't have that.
Do you have the light up box?
No. I do know someone with the light up box,
cool.
but I have I have the regular box.
Yeah, I have the regular box. That was the first box that I ever bought. And when that came out, it was like, well, I am spending the money to buy this because I have to have all of this.
That was probably well over $100. I'm trying to remember when it came out.
I think it was like $150, if I remember correctly, because like I went and bought it for myself for my birthday. I was like, well, that's a gift to myself.
That was a birthday present for me too. I got in 2014, and originally I wanted to get the Beatles US albums, the CD version. Then I got in a few, and while the packaging for it was very nice, you know, the fact that they used the 2009 remasters in its place for a lot of those tracks, I was thinking not worth it. I instead asked my parents, "Hey, can I get the Smile Sessions box set?" And it was one of the best decisions I ever made.
Hard to find now.
Hard to find now.
Very hard to find now. You're paying over $500 to get it now if you want it.
And you know, they may just randomly post a whole new batch of them in 10 years, like the Beatles did.
Like they're repressing. They're repressing the repressings of the vinyl are now out.
Yeah.
But not the box.
No, just the album on vinyl, but still, it's back out there.
All right, so I didn't know that's back out there again.
I think they must have done I don't know why it didn't get such a huge announcement. I'm guessing they were following the Beatles with the mono box stuff.
Okay, because that announcement was like cryptic, and you had to get an email, and it was in your spam. And okay, yeah, we're gonna release the mono again, but maybe the Beach Boys did the same thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
If you want to know about Beatles stuff early on, just join the Fab Four Free for All Facebook group. Everything's
on there. Everything's
on there. Yeah.
More about Smile. I think one of the things that obviously aided Smile and learning more about that was the Beautiful Dreamer documentary by David Leaf, which I think I watched that as much as I listened to the album, and watching and seeing all these faces come together. And yes, it's Brian's story and it's not the Beach Boys story, but these are all the players, David Anderle and all the people that are majorly involved in this period of the album. And that really helped bring it. And what a wonderful documentary, because again, it's like, and it ends with the performance at the Royal Festival Hall in England in 2004. Paul is there. Like, how does that not warm your heart to see that when you watch that documentary? I'm sure you guys have seen it.
Yeah, and you see the amount. Even then, Brian was going through so much. You know, a lot of bad memories must have come back for him. There were times where he just had to go home and run away from it. You know, the fact that he wanted to do it again and to really finish it was incredible. And it wasn't easy, but he did it. And I can't imagine how he was feeling. A huge weight must have been lifted off his shoulders when it happened.
Well, it's that shot when the show finishes and it cuts to Van Dyke Parks in the audience, and he's just sitting there sobbing in his face in his hands. It's just it's brutal. Like it just breaks your heart knowing what these two guys had gone through for this project for so long, and what Brian had gone through from it. You know, that's one of the things I think that makes Brian's story so special is you feel for him. Like he feels emotions so much more intimately than people. And I think he feels things bigger than people, and he can't comprehend them and he can't quite deal with them. So the sympathy and the empathy that you have for this man is just massive. So to see him persevere and beat this demon that he's had for years is like the best story of, like, you know, the best, you know, human will story that you could ask for, you know?
Right. Because so many people could have written him off in the 70s, in the 80s, and like,
they did.
And they wrote him off.
Yeah.
You know, okay. And then you watch what he went through personally in his life.
Mm-hmm.
and getting, basically controlled over by a freaking freak show and setting up to be basically doped up and medicated and all this crap that he's gone through. And after all that shit, he can still come back to this project and finish it. And that is got to be one of the top 10 stories of anybody's kind of journey of overcoming anything, be it music or not. Music
it's
or
like
not.
Better than a Rocky movie. Like it's the ultimate comeback story.
And of course, the best part is, besides all that, one of the best parts is it's a great album.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, that band, the Wondermans, God bless them for having, they knew it. They wanted to perform it. They knew that it could be out there. They gave Brian what he needed in the 60s that he didn't have. And, everything happens for a reason. Thank God that he met those guys, I think in 99, about 98 or 99, and got together and they toured and got his confidence again going. And it started slowly too. If you guys remember, Jonathan, the tribute concert to Brian Wilson in 2001 at Radio City Music Hall. I watched that live on TNT.
Oh, cool.
Watched that and seeing David Crosby and Vince Gill.
Yeah, and Vince Gill. Oh, that version of Surf's Up is so good.
Doing Surf's Up and Smile. Now, and then Brian does Heroes and Villains, and you're like, wait a minute. So like it was slowly coming to that kind of cathartic process of going back to it. And that tribute concert is fantastic. You got George Martin out there talking. And, it's just so all these things were happening around the same time. So it's no wonder we finally got Smile back. And it's I think it's going to be something that people discover 50 years from now when people actually think, oh, I know the Beach Boys, and they're going to go study. They're going to go, holy shit, what was this guy doing?
Yeah. And it's funny because I mentioned earlier, the first time I heard Pet Sounds, just having to like pull over and cry, so Smile comes out in what, 04, I think. So I'm still in college. It's my senior year of college. I go to the same Best Buy. I buy Smile on CD, right? I get in my car. I put it on. Our Prayer comes on, and as it finishes and it goes right into the G intro and then into Heroes and Villains, I'm trying to merge onto the interstate and I start to cry again, and I have to pull over on the merge and just sit there and listen to this record and just weep. I'm like, I can't believe he did it. This is amazing. Like, I'm so happy about this. Just the amount of times that his music has moved me to tears is hard to count. And for a multitude of reasons and emotions.
You're so right with that and I agree with you. I kind of felt like that was the final word on Smile. Like, this album is out now. Like, Beach Boys be damned. You can put we don't need it now. He's put it out. Yeah. Now we got the sessions in 2011. So now with both albums sitting there, it's going to be interesting to see how those are judged as time moves on now that Brian's gone. 20 years time. Are they going to go to the Smile sessions, or are they going to go to Brian Wilson's Smile? It feels like it's going towards the Beach Boys Smile sessions. Yeah.
I think, over the last however many years it's been since he put out Smile, because he was doing other stuff, I think the work got measured against it. And to some extent, it was kind of diminishing returns of like, That Lucky Old Sun was great. The Gershwin thing was cool. Then there was like the Disney record, and then there was the Beach Boys record, and he was just constantly touring. So I think people just it just became background, you forgot about it because he was always doing something. I'd be curious to see in the next 10 to 15 years where that trajectory goes for that record, because it's been unavailable for a long time. Like, I know the vinyl has been unavailable for a long time. I assume maybe it's on CD. I don't know for sure. But I'd have to think, in light of his passing, there will be an anniversary that will come up soon for it. That'll come out probably the 25th anniversary of the release of... Holy shit. The 25th anniversary of the release of Brian Wilson Presents Smile will be a mind-blowing moment.
Benjy, do you have it on vinyl, Brian Wilson?
I do.
Yeah. That's a tough one to find too.
Yeah. And look, I had to pay decent bucks for it. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, but it was so worth it. It was one of those records I knew.
What a design on that record, right? It's such
beautiful design.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So nice. I got it when it came out, and I also have a 7-inch of Wonderful. Forget where it came from at the time. I don't remember what's on the flip side, but it's on, I want to say, green vinyl.
Was it one of those Best Buy kind of exclusives? One of those deals?
I don't think it was Best Buy.
Was it exclusive with Endless Summer Quarterly?
No, because I
Or those
wasn't
are-
buying anything
Oh,
like
those
that
were
at
the
the time.
CDs. CDs came within the summer quarter.
Mm.
I'll have to look up where I try to remember where I got it from. I forget the name of the label. It was something robot. I don't remember how I came across it, but I got it at the, like right around the time the record came out.
Mm.
Maybe even before the record came out. Like as a maybe it was like a pre-order thing. I don't remember. It's been so long now.
Yeah. So moving on, I think really as we couldn't be more impressed when that album comes out. Brian's writing, he's feeling good. He's got the album out, he's touring, and then he drops that Lucky Old Son.
Mhm.
Oh my God. I really think, smile aside, this is the best Brian Wilson solo record, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Agree or disagree?
It's incredible epic, a nice story being told, beautiful interludes, and Forever She'll Be My Surfer Girl. You get in the title alone, you get reference to 2 incredible Beach Boys songs, but then you listen to it and it's a total incredible song on its own.
This really could have. This is like what the Beach Boys should have been sounding like in 2008. I mean,
yeah,
the songwriting. I mean, I don't know. I guess Van Dyke Parks was his lyricist again, right? On this,
I think for some of them.
For some, and I know Scott Bennett was a bandmate of his at the time that did a lot of work on that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the guy that got in trouble, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. He was. I remember watching the documentary of this, and he was heavily involved. But I do think, Benji, this is sealed. Should I open it or leave it sealed? You are Vinyl Benji.
I mean, I personally would open it because, what good is vinyls if you don't play it? There might be certain cases where I'll recommend you don't open it, but I think in this case you're fine.
Some of the narrative stuff is a little on this, the in-between talking things on this, but the Good Kind of Love, Forever She'll Be My Surfer Girl, Midnight's Another Day, Southern California. I mean, even a track like Oxygen to the Brain is so full. It's like so much full of energy, that song.
Yeah.
This record was full of so much positivity that it was hard to stop playing. And then it trailed off a little bit. The Gershwin thing, and then Jonathan, like you mentioned, it was almost like Brian Wilson oversaturation. He was doing so much stuff.
Yeah.
Where do you guys rate No Peer Pressure? That one I'm a little this way to add on.
I listened to it like once and was like,
Yeah.
I actually like that album. It's not one of his best, but I appreciate it enough. I think there's some great songs on there.
It felt like he was leaning too heavily on guests, which is kind of where I started to lose interest.
Yeah, I'm with you, buddy. I think really Brian Wilson presents Smile and That Lucky Old Son, I think, other than Self-Titled, his first one, which is a great record too, because it's got Love and Mercy on it and some other great tracks. Those 3, I think, really are what Brian Wilson's solo career will stand upon, outside of his work with the Beach Boys. I think those 3 records really will represent him well, I think.
There are other favorites I like, and the criticism you have for No Peer Pressure could be said about this album too, Getting In Over My Head.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Which was definitely, I think it didn't get enough attention ultimately because Smile came out the same year.
Correct.
Right.
But I still has some great stuff.
Has some great songs on it.
Sure.
A Friend Like You, which was beautifully co-written with Stevie Kolenich, has Paul.
That's Paul
on co-lead vocals, and that's
an
amazing song.
What's the one with Elton John? How Can We Still Be Dancing? It's a great little tune. There's some great stuff on that record.
Couple good tracks on that record too, for sure.
And also, I think the last 3 or 4 songs on That's Why God Made the Radio are pretty much Brian's solo compositions with Joe Thomas. But melodically, that's up there with anything he ever did.
Now
it's gorgeous.
Let's talk about That's Why God Made the Radio.
If I recall, there would have been more. I think they originally planned to have more songs in that suite. There were a bunch of songs they recorded for that album that didn't get put out there.
Correct.
I wonder what those sound like. I would love to hear those one day.
From There and Back Again.
Yeah, Pacific Coast Highway, Summer's Gone.
Drop the mic, man.
And Summer's Gone.
Summer's Gone
was meant to be the last Beach Boys song, and you sometimes wish that they still went on after that, but out of all the songs they could have picked to really cap off the Beach Boys studio output.
And I think they performed it only once, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
In London at like Royal Albert Hall, they did like 2 nights. And I think the second night they added like 5 or 6 extra songs to the set list that had been relatively the same for the whole tour. And one of the songs was Summer's Gone. And it's like the only time I think they did it.
You want to know something interesting? I think, if I recall correctly, I think John Bon Jovi is one of the co-writers of that song.
Really?
I
think you are correct. Yeah.
It's very random.
For whatever
John Bon Jovi.
For whatever reason, they were pushing "Isn't It Time" as like the song, the single.
Yeah, I remember that.
They even played it live. I'm like, good song, but you could be playing other stuff from this album
Yeah.
too.
There's like a single remix
Yes.
that's a bit more like beat heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually just listening to it today. That makes me curious. Which version do you guys prefer? The single version or the album version?
Album.
I was more into the single version for a while, just I think out of novelty's sake, but now I'm back to the album version.
Yeah.
Now, I always prefer the album version.
You like the album version too, Benji?
Yeah.
I think it's the way to go. Because I think they had included that one in that other box set that came out. It was a Made in California.
Made in California.
The single version's there.
It's on that. But I mean, listen, I'm wondering where you guys think. I mean, yes, the auto tune is all over the place on that record, but it's still so damn good.
And it has its fair share of weird, the private life of Bill and Sue.
Oh God.
I mean, look, they stay true to the themes of sun and summer and life and girls, but they also put a little bit of weird in there. It was really amazing. It's I fucking love that album. I love it.
And like the acapella bits that start and then kind of bookend the record are just absolutely gorgeous. Like it shows you he can still pull off these Our Prayer-esque, compositions that are just melodic masterpieces. He just tosses them off like it's nothing.
It's what a fitting way to end your, recording career with the band.
And there's one song that would have been on one of Mike's unreleased albums from years ago. What's it called? Daybreak Over the Ocean.
Daybreak Over the Ocean.
Which isn't terrible. It's not a terrible song.
Yeah.
No,
there's nothing objectively bad on the album.
No, not at all.
There's nothing that makes me go like, "Ooh, guys, why?" Like,
I think I don't think who didn't like Spring Vacation. I think Bruce. Bruce didn't like Spring Vacation.
Yeah.
I had read somewhere that Bruce
is like surprisingly tranky.
He is, and he's really gone 100% with the whole, hits thing with Mike, I guess. I mean, I'd read somewhere that a song that he had pitched to the group for this album was a re-recording of She Believes in Love Again.
Yes.
Which I love that song, but why would you re-record a song? Bruce is such an amazing songwriter. For a while, he was the only member of the Beach Boys to have won a Grammy. He won it for I Write the Songs.
I Write the Songs, yeah.
From Barry.
So clearly, he's a fantastic songwriter.
Yeah.
So he could have easily pitched something else that would have been just as great.
It's also like, why would you re-record something, 30 years later when no one's voices are as good as they were 30 years prior? Like, what's the point? Is there something to be said with that? I don't think so. He might have just heard. Maybe he thought there was something to it that was commercially viable or something.
All right, it's time to debunk some Beach Boys myths here, especially with that band. Not some because talking about this album brought up memories of seeing them live with Brian's band and of course Mike's band. And a key part of both of those bands was Jeff Foskett. What happened with Jeff Foskett, Jonathan, Benjy? Like, why did he leave Brian and go to Mike?
I think he got offered money. I think they offered to pay him more money.
That's it?
That's kind of what I understood it as, was like they were going to work more and he could make more money. I assume that's also around the time that maybe he got sick. And
possible.
Maybe it just was a better financial situation for him because Brian was cutting back dates. The Beach Boys were ramping up dates or never really slowed down. So I think that's probably why. I don't know.
This is not something I've looked into, actually. I knew it happened. I just never really bothered researching myself why.
You know why? Because when you watch all of this stuff, the concerts, the documentaries, Jeff Foskett is such an integral part of Brian's operation. He's like the meat and potatoes of that whole thing.
And he was the only other vocalist they got for That's Why God Made the Radio. It was just Brian, Mike, Al, Bruce, and David, and Jeff Foskett.
And Jeff, yeah.
Right. So when he left, I was like, wow, that's like passing of the guard here. Now you're going to go sing with Mike now? I'm like, I hate to see that because he was such a Brian. He was so big, such a big role.
But I will say, Matt Jardine picked up the slack for the falsettos.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I love how Al basically after that happened, Al was all in with Team Brian, like him and his son, and he's
got his band now.
Right, he's got his
Brian's band.
And I hope they come to New York. I'm
sure they will.
Play.
Yeah,
I saw on Facebook today. They just started their tour, and they're doing a bunch of stuff off of Love You and MIU. I think they opened with She's Got Rhythm.
They're playing stuff off of Love You.
Yeah, they're doing a Love
Let's
You
go.
tour. I want to see
Johnny
that.
Carson. Let's go. Let's let the
And I
Johnny
saw,
Carson.
I don't know if he's playing with them the whole tour, but my friend Amin Zarukian, who most of you know from Mickey's band, Mickey Dolan's band, he played with them their last show.
Yeah, I saw a picture. He was on the video that I saw.
Yeah. So I would love to ask him about playing with those guys.
Love You and MIU. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder why they didn't pair MIU with LA.
LA, right.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right.
That's a good question. It's definitely a better album than LA Light album, but I don't know. Maybe Al has more songs on MIU. Maybe. I mean,
he does have plenty of songs on that album for sure. I mean, if I recall correctly, Dennis and Carl didn't really contribute much to that record. They were kind of. So that record was mostly Brian and Mike and Al.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Random Beach Boys trivia question. Every Sunday on Two Legs, I do a live show and I include Beatles trivia and Paul trivia for about 20 questions. I got one question here. Okay.
Okay.
All right. The song Lady Linda, which came out on LA, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Came out again in the 80s for a one-off event. What was that called?
Lady Liberty.
Bingo.
And I think it was for I forgot what the event was. Maybe it wasn't the bicentennial because that was in 76.
No, the Statue of Liberty got redone. There was a big unveiling of it in 1986.
Right.
And that's what it was for. Jonathan, did you know that or no?
I did not know that. No.
And he and Linda divorced by then, so I guess he wanted to sort of repurpose
It's actually really good. It's Lady Linda, but with lyrics about the Statue of Liberty. It's actually pretty good.
That's funny.
They're both great.
Yeah.
You can't expect Al to play that song ever again, but
yeah.
And I don't know if I'd have the chutzpah to tell him how much I love that song, but yeah, both great.
Well, that beginning is very Bach like esque.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that is a classical piece that he's, I guess, sampled for lack of better terms, but he still turned a classical piece into an incredible song on its own.
Yeah, I always love throwing a little random trivia in just to see where everybody's at with it.
I love that.
All right, let's talk Beach Boys top 10 songs of all time.
Oof.
You can rank them. You cannot rank them. On Two Legs, we like to rank things, but Benji told me off air that he did not. These are in no particular order.
No particular order.
So we're gonna just do rapid fire. So I'm gonna let Benji go first, Jonathan second, and I'll finish it up. So
now with my list, I kind of started off. I made sure to include at least one song by every Beach Boy, as I could. So we're gonna start off strong with "Forever" from Dennis Wilson on Sunflower.
Okay,
easily one of the best Beach Boys songs ever. Beautiful love song. That was Dennis Wilson showing the world, hey, we can do songs too. It's one of those songs that could still get you emotional. The harmonies are beautiful. The lyrics really get your soul. It's and it was on Full House.
Uncle Jesse loved it.
Have Mercy. That was actually one of my earliest introductions to the Beach Boys too. Full House, believe it or not.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So Forever, easily one of the best Beach Boys songs ever.
Okay.
That might actually be my number one if I had to put it somewhere, but this list is not really ranked. So yeah,
go ahead. The floor is yours.
Oh, am I just going to keep going down my whole list?
We're going to go 10 through 1. You're going to go 10 through 1. I'm going to kick it to John. Yeah.
Like I said, not ranked. Next is from Carl, Long Promised Road.
Oh yeah.
I picked that song because I've been going through my fair amount of stuff this past year or two, some personal mental health things, whatnot. I'm not going to go too much into it, but it really resonates with me. And it's just a fantastic song. And, there's hope for the future, no matter what's going to get you down.
Sure.
Next from Bruce, Disney Girls. Disney Girls is easily, not easily. Disney Girls is one of the very first songs that was introduced to me by the Beach Boys. Well, not the first. Let me rephrase it. Disney Girls was one of the very first deep cut Beach Boys songs I was ever introduced to by my dad. Actually, we had those greatest hits, but at one point my dad recommended this song, Disney Girls, and we bought it on iTunes. And for a while, that was the only song on Surf's Up we had on our iPods. But I was introduced to that song very early on, and this pleasant reflection of childhood and wonderful memories. It's
50s, the throwback to the 50s of innocence amongst the drug culture, which was kind of what he said. Like, it's the 70s, everybody's doing these druggies. Can't we go back to simpler times? ice cream and Patty Page and summer days on Old Cape
Yeah.
Cod.
Just Bruce is incredible. I mean, it's an amazing song. From Mike, we talked about the song before, and I specifically referring to the Surfs Up version, Big Sur.
Nice.
People love to crap on Mike Love for his songs and how he's kind of really over the years he's really kind of to grasp onto this whole summer thing, I guess, for the business, whatnot, whatever reason his reason is. But Mike Love could write a great song. I mean, he wrote the lyrics to Good Vibrations. He wrote, he's wrote so many. And Big Sur is a beautiful poem. You can't help but picture the beautiful scenes of California. And I've driven through Big Sur. It is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So I totally get it. And it's just a beautiful, it's scenes of nature. Even if you haven't been to Big Sur, it kind of gives you ideas in your mind of what he could have been thinking of, what it could look like. Can't help but imagine this beautiful place and dream to visit there.
Absolutely.
Now, from Al, California Saga. Now, that's
Nice.
similar to Big Sur. You may have never been to Big Sur, which, he does reference the song, or the other places he's referenced in that song, but it's just this beautiful love letter to their home state. And the visions you have and what it might look like and their memories of it. It's just an incredible song. I'm not very good at describing reasons why I love songs. I just go with my gut here.
You're doing great.
You're doing great, buddy. Keep going.
Okay, I covered songs from the other Beach Boys. Now I think the rest of these are Brian for the most part. And like I said, no particular order. Next we got When I Grew Up to Be a Man. Hypnotic Fred did an episode on Beach Boys Today, and he did a Facebook story, with the what's your favorite song from today? And most people put in Please Let Me Wonder, which of course is the best song on today, in my opinion. That being said, there's a difference between a best song and a favorite song. And my favorite song is When I Grew Up to Be a Man. It's similar to Long Promised Road. When I Grew Up to Be a Man kind of reminds me of, my journey.
Sure.
Anyone's journey and where I am in my life and what I want to reach for myself. And it kind of makes me think, I'm not alone. And I'm sure other people have that feeling too. And
the album version and the single version are very different, right?
You're talking about Help Me Rhonda, probably.
That's the difference. Okay, yeah. That's the difference.
I'm talking about When I Grew Up to Be a Man.
No, I thought there might have been a different version on the album from the single version.
No, I think they're similar.
Okay.
I think they're the same. Next up, Surfin'. Every band has to start somewhere. I love that song. For a first song by a band, it's a very good song. The classic five lineup. Al, even though he briefly left the Beach Boys after this, for the first two albums, he was on this song. You got Carl guitar, Dennis on vocals, Brian tapping the snare drum, Mike singing, Al on upright bass. A simple arrangement, beautiful harmony. Even back then, they just nailed it. It's just a great song.
Sure.
I love it. In My Room. And I think a lot of other people feel this way too. It just resonates so deeply. Every day I come home from work and I just want to get back to my room, my safe space.
That's
my
a lot
zone.
Of us. Yep. That's it, man. That's what it is for us.
It's just to get away from the world, the crazy world we live in. That's a song that I feel like must resonate with everybody.
It's a universal truth.
Yeah. Now the next song, not necessarily the lyrics, but because I think this is a very particularly deep cut. Some of the best harmonies I've heard of a Beach Boys song. No Go Showboat.
Deep cut.
Little Deuce Coupe.
Deep cut.
Incredible harmonies on that song. Powerful, beautiful harmonies.
I have a song from that album too.
I guess Custom Machine as well. Custom Machine and No Go Showboat both have amazing, powerful harmonies. You may not be a car geek, but you can't disagree with there. Some of the best harmonies I've heard in a Beach Boys song. Of course, this one's an obvious. God Only Knows.
Hands down.
Look, you gotta have a typical favorite on the list. God Only Knows there's a reason why Paul McCartney's called it his favorite song of all time.
Yeah. Hard to disagree.
Now, my favorite track from Pet Sounds, which I think I did mention earlier too, is I Know There's an Answer / Hang On to Your Ego. I guess I put both there. Both lyrics are great. Both had, Hang On to Your Ego is definitely a bit too much for people, or I guess too much record company. Why, I don't know.
Why would that have been a problem for a song title in 1966?
No idea. But I love the backing track. I love the arrangement. And out of all the songs on Pet Sounds, I think that's the most 60s song in terms of arrangement, in terms of backing track. It's such a 60s song.
Yes. It's got all that. It's got all that kind of like
just
jazzy,
everything about it. The 12-string guitar. The harmonica as well. I mean,
Carol
and of course Al on vocals. Mwah. Al's my favorite Beach Boy. I love Al. Love Al. So
I love it.
And if we have time, I'll tell you the story about how I met Al Jardy, but we can do that afterwards.
Right. Good choices, brother. I was waiting to hear Mount Vernon and Fairway.
Oh, hold on. All right.
I was waiting to hear that. I wanted to hear somebody pop that on there. Or something, one of them tracks.
Andy, calm down.
Jonathan, you're up.
All right. I had put these in order, but I realized I forgot a number, so I'm going to just kind of call off what I think the order is.
Okay.
So number 1, I've got to go with God Only Knows. Like, that's God tier. Like, that's one of the greatest things that's ever come out. That's one of the greatest pop songs of all time. Number 2, I'm going to go with Surf's Up. I think that is, like I said earlier, absolutely next level art. And that video of him on the Leonard Bernstein special is just it's hard. It's rare to see music just pour out of a human in like that kind of way. It's so special. And that song, there's nothing else like it. And that extends to composition and to performance. It's incredible. From there, I'm going to go, this is personal favorites. I'm going to go Little Saint Nick. I love Christmas music.
A little Christmas music. Yeah.
I love Christmas music. And that is like the sound of Christmas to me, is that song. It makes me so happy. It makes me smile, makes me want to dance, makes me want to, hug somebody. I love that song.
Good choice.
It's so good.
Hug it out, bro. Hug it out.
Yes, hug it out. Number 4, I'm going to go Heroes and Villains. I think that song has such a cool energy to it. There's so much happening. And it's just, there's kind of this like relentless pulse to it. And I also love that there's so many different parts of it that it's kind of like a choose your own adventure. Like you can make so many different versions of that song.
That's a great way of putting it.
That is a great analogy, man. It really is.
Like it's one of the few things where you can create your own mix of a song and it'll be totally different from someone else's. I love that. From there, and I feel like my numbers are going to get skewed here, so I'm just going to rattle them off. The Night Was So Young, off of Love You. I think that is classic Brian at a time of weird Brian. Like that is a gorgeous, gorgeous song. I'm going to go Ding Dang. I unabashedly love Ding Dang.
Yes,
that's what we're talking about.
It's so fun. It's like there's counter melodies, there's all these things happening. There's rounds of things happening. It's absurdly catchy. I love Ding Dang. I wish it went on for so much longer. You're So Good to Me. One of my favorite 60s songs of all time. I found recently when COVID first started, before I started doing the podcast, I was like, I had this idea of I'm going to make a covers EP, and I recorded like 5 or 6 songs. One of them was a cover of You're So Good to Me. I ended up not finishing the project and forgot about it because I did many other things. But I recently came across it on my hard drive. I was like, oh, this is actually not bad. I'm going to finish this and put this out at some point. So maybe I'll get that out this year. That's my goal.
Come on, baby. Let's hear it.
It's pretty rocking.
Who does the la 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 la's on that?
I did it all.
Oh, awesome. We got to
you better send us a sneak peek, man.
It was April of 2020. It was me and Julia not leaving the house. So it's just me in this room, slowly losing my mind because I wasn't talking to other humans. But it's really fun.
Oh, I love that.
I'm going to go with Busy Doing Nothing.
Okay.
That's one of my favorites.
I have the signed lyric sheet by Brian and Al on my wall of Busy Doing Nothing.
Oh, cool.
Show it.
Nice.
Can you show it?
Yeah, I can.
You can see that.
I don't know if you could tell. And right above it is actually a painting by Stevie Kulinich.
Oh, I see it.
Oh, cool. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Sorry.
I love that, like,
Go on.
67, 68 Brian, just like, this is my day-to-day life, period.
Mhm.
You know, things like that. Just they make there's so much love in those songs.
Now, you know, I'm assuming back then Pocketbook makes something different because he searches for his pocketbook, which we now know is a girl's bag, but back then I'm assuming it must have been something different.
Yeah, little
Props in
tiny
front of a
notebook.
pocketbook, yeah.
The little tiny notebook, you put phone numbers and addresses and stuff, and
Yeah.
that was your phone book, yeah. And then I'm gonna go with an instrumental. I'm going Let's Go Away for a While off Pet Sounds.
There you
That's
go.
one of the most beautiful pieces of music. It says so much just in the melodic phrase and just in the music of that song. Every bit of emotion that title suggests comes across in that music, and it's absolutely heartbreaking. Yeah. And then if I can also throw in a couple of
Honorable mentions.
honorable mentions.
Go.
This has grown on me. Had to Phone Ya off of 15 Big Ones. I don't know why, but it's really grown on me.
Come on and answer the phone.
I love that part is so amazing. But I love that you get you get almost everyone's different voice at different points of that song. Like it's really cool. And then also I'm gonna go with Short and Bread.
Short and
Oh, yeah.
Have you guys heard what's called the Love You Side 3 mix of Short and Bread?
No.
Someone did this concept.
Familiar.
Someone did this concept of like if Love You was a double album, and side 3 is an 18-minute version of Short and Bread. I like to listen to it every 6 months. Just an X in in my ability to stick with something because it's so grating and it goes on for so long. There's a keyboard that sounds like a swarm of bees.
Right?
That's just going for like the whole time, and it's a nice challenge to go. Can I stick with this for 18 more minutes?
18 minutes. Oh my God.
Dude, this
Short
reminds me.
Bread Love You Side 3 mix. It's on YouTube.
Okay.
Does it combine all the various different versions of that song and Ding
No,
Dang?
but that exists also. That's I think it's called the Saga of Shortening Bread.
Yeah, I think this was before that. I think it has all the different versions one after the other. I think I recall that this was before the Brother Proposed bonus tracks got leaked. So, and there was another version of Ding Dang called Clangin' there. But I would love to hear like a mashup version. You know, I just got a record in the mail last week, which is called Grateful, and it's kind of a mashup album by the Grateful Dead. And it's a mashup of all these very different versions of the song Dark Star together in this huge long thing, and it's incredible. I dare someone to do something like that with Ding Dang.
With Ding Dang.
I
have a suspicion.
I'm not good enough.
I've heard that there's a Love You era box set coming down the pipeline.
There is.
That will combine that and the adult child material.
Ooh.
Hopefully. Because there's some really cool stuff on the adult child sessions.
Still I Dream of It, right?
So the Dream of It, Life is for the Living.
Tomboy.
A little less that's said about Hey Little Tomboy, the better.
One of the weird. It's one of the weird songs.
What's the one where it's like the cigarette butt when it goes in the water goes? Psst.
Oh,
it's like the weirdest lyric you've ever heard. You're like, okay, yeah. But there's some cool stuff on Adult Child.
That'll be cool. Yeah, that is confirmed. They're going to come out like all the other stuff. The Feel Flow set, all like the other sets that have come out.
We just need to ask Al Jardine because he spills the beans.
He does.
Al, tell us.
Well, and he's leaning so hard into the Ding Dang thing right now. I gotta think between him and Brian's camp when they were selling the Ding Dang merch this year,
which I have a shirt.
They've got to be doing something with that.
Of course,
they have to be.
Like the box set's going to be called Ding Dang or something like that. Like it's got to be.
Here's a funny story. The buddies, you guys know the band the Burkharts.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if you love the Beach Boys, you love the Burkharts, and they're friends of mine. I'm not going to share this with you. I'd have to get Trevor's permission to show this to you guys personally. But one time, Trevor did a in-studio cover. I think it was just him, and maybe one of his brothers, of Ding Dang. He did a cover of Ding Dang. And if you like the Burkharts, I'm sure, and you love the Beach Boys, you'd want to hear it. I'm not going to share it out there. I'd have to get his blessing first, but I do have it on my phone, and it brings me joy to listen to.
Nice.
That's awesome, I think I'm going to title this episode "Ding Dang," a tribute to Brian Wilson.
Yes.
Honestly, I think you gotta.
I think I'm gonna.
It's gonna hit the algorithm real good. People are gonna love it.
There's this one person. There's this one person I know from Instagram. Unfortunately, I don't remember his handle, but you guys may know who I'm talking about. And if you remember his name, please let me know. He challenged himself to listen to Ding Dang straight through for 25 hours.
Oh, I saw that. I saw that. Yes.
Please remember his name. I've chatted with him plenty.
I don't remember his name, but I remember seeing that post. I saw that post.
Very nice kid, and I was so worried about him and his mental health, honestly, but he did it. I mean, props.
Yeah. That's impressive.
What a legend.
He's like the Joey Chestnut of Ding Dang.
Yes, of Ding Dang. On 25 hours. I don't know who's that or the guy who buys all the White Albums. I don't know.
Oh no, he passed away. So
he just passed away.
He just passed away.
Yeah,
that's right.
I wonder what they're going to do with that collection.
Props to him for doing that, but also I think he might have been the reason why the value of that album went up so much.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to you buying his collection, Benji. I'm sure you'll have it.
Exactly. You'll have them all now.
Hello, my friends. This is Fandom Benji. Look what I have.
Nothing could beat Sgt. Pepper in terms of how many I have. Sgt. Pepper's got to be on top.
Yeah.
But I did just recently get an original mono of the White Album, original UK mono. So
top loader, baby.
Top loader, baby. Speaking of which, Andy, what are your favorites?
Oh, my time. I'll rip through them really quick. Jonathan, you and I matched up to start our list, actually. Reverse, though. Surf's Up one for me.
Okay.
And I'm going to go with that 1967 solo version because it's just like, it's like from a place of God, that version.
Yeah.
It really is. God only knows, too, of course. Then I'm going to go, I've got, let's see, 3 in a row that are like early era Beach Boys. I'm going to go 2 from Beach Boys today. Kiss Me, Baby, and She Knows Me Too Well. Especially She Knows Me Too Well. My God, the harmonies on that song. Yeah. The Prime O'Brien kind of screaming and like whining. The whine that Marilyn always said that he has. You hear the Brian Wilson whine in She Knows Me Too Well, and it's so awesome. And he was like 22 at the time. Love that song. The next one. Benji did a post about this a few weeks ago, and I messaged you in response to it because it's such a good one. Oh, yeah. The Ballad of Old Betsy. Oh my God!
That is another song. That's one of the reasons. Well, that's one of the reasons why Little Deuce Coupe has grown on my list of favorite Beach Boys albums because the harmonies.
Exactly.
I mean, and they do incredible harmonies on other albums too. And I'm sure some people might think that on other later albums, their harmonies, get better. And I mean, when you listen to "I Just Wasn't Made for These Times," that you have a case for that, but the harmonies on Little Deuce Coupe are some of the best harmonies Beach Boys ever did.
It's a love song to a freaking car, and it's like a thing of beauty.
Those harmonies on Betsy and the other songs I mentioned are absolutely incredible.
They're ridiculously stupid good, and these are deep cuts that most people don't know.
Battle Betsy is definitely one of the best songs on that album for sure.
Easily. And then the last, everything else on my list is later era Beach Boys. I've got All This Is That.
Oh, yeah.
Carl and the Passion So Tough. Got to see that live. That was fantastic. Then I'm going to Love You. And from Love You, I'm going with I'll Bet He's Nice.
Yeah.
Because you've got all 3 Wilson brothers harmonizing on that track. Yeah. And when it gets to that part, when baby, don't you ever tell me that. I mean, when you get to that part, you're like, what a gem of a song this is. Right? Yeah. I think is that Carl doing that bit?
Mm-hmm.
It's Carl,
and he's got that real nice, like, soulful timbre to his voice at that point. Like, it's so nice.
Great. And the demo of that is so awesome because you can hear how excited they are. Have you guys heard the demo of I'll Bet He's Nice? Because
it's been a while since I've heard it.
When it gets to that bridge, somebody in the background is losing their shit because they realize how good the song is. I love hearing that on the demo.
That's cool.
He's flipping out when you hear it. I don't know who's flipping out, but it's awesome. Actually, now we're going back old school one more time. Probably the song, the Beach Boys song that John Lennon thought should have been a bigger hit, "The Little Girl I Once Knew."
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, that's a great one.
That way, with the odd, because the song stops, right? That's why it didn't become a bigger hit. It really should have been a bigger hit, and it just should have been. I mean, that whole thing, it feels like you're at a circus when you hear that song.
Yeah.
And it just goes on and on and on and on and on. And then that critical stop, I think, is why it didn't really do well as a single, And then rounding out my last 2, I've got At My Window from Sunflower.
Nice.
And All I Want to Do from Sunflower.
Nice.
So all I want to do from Sunflower, thankfully, has since been recognized as an early precursor to Vaporwave, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
And you won't believe what album I just got in the mail today. You know what album I bought for myself and just got here? Speaking of which, can't make this up.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah, what timing? But yeah, no.
The Vaporwave greatest hits.
Starting
Really?
there. But you
No,
can hear that in that song.
It's shoegaze, not vaporwaves. It's
Oh,
shoegaze.
shoegaze. Sorry. Sorry.
And
As you can see, I'm an expert in that stuff.
My honorable mention, kind of going back to what Jonathan was saying, that Brian kind of just, this is my life at this moment, is that I went to sleep. I love that song.
Yeah.
Busy doing nothing. I went to sleep. Like, this is where his head was at, right?
Yeah.
You know,
I could give honorable mentions to so many songs. You know, Back Home is a favorite of mine. And
yeah,
the 63 version that finally came out on the Made in California.
Mm.
I mean, when you put it on a 15 Big Ones, it sounds like one of their weird songs about it. But when you listen to the version, the 1963 version, it sounds like this beautiful song with this beautiful arrangement. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
I love the version of that on the that 76 whatever Good Vibration special. If you've seen that, where it's like half concert, half documentary.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And they also do they do that same song with the gospel choir. Like, that's really cool. That's a great version of
we could be throwing honorable mentions out for days.
Oh,
Darling. Yeah. I mean, come on.
Little Girl, You're My Miss America. I think that's a cover, but it's still a great cover.
Yeah.
I mean,
from Surfin'. Oh, here's an honorable mention. The song that should have been on Surfin' Safari, Lands Ahoy.
I don't know that one.
It's an outtake from Surfin' Safari.
Okay.
And it's an amazing song. Mike, I'm pretty sure it's written by Brian and Mike. Excuse me. Didn't get put on Surfin' Safari. I think it did inspire Go Cherry Coupe on Little Deuce Coupe, similar tune. But Land Ahoy is an amazing song, and I think it should have been on that album.
Oh.
Throwing out honorable mentions.
Hey, hot takes, baby, hot takes. That's what we're all about here on Two Legs. We love throwing the hot take out. Benji, you talked about Bruce's ability as a songwriter. Another honorable mention. I'll go with The Nearest Faraway Place. Oh my God,
yeah,
gorgeous.
No doubt, it's a great song.
You could just picture like listening to that song, watching like mountains or something in the background, right?
Yeah.
What a perfect kind of soundscape type of song. So
That's beautiful.
Bruce can do it all, man. So yeah, we could be doing hot takes all the time, but we can start to wrap it up. And Jonathan, why don't you tell us what is next for Ranking the Beatles? What do you got?
Ranking the Beatles will be back sometime in the fall. We've been kind of on an extended break, just mainly due to scheduling and availability. But we are about to go over to London and Liverpool for a couple weeks. And then when we get back from that, start working on scheduling new episodes. So we should be back in the fall.
Excellent. And you will be hopefully at the New York Fest again. I know you guys won't be at the Chicago Fest in a month, right?
No.
Correct. We will not be there in Chicago. We're debating Chicago next year. It depends kind of on my gig schedule. So, but if not, Chicago, New York for sure.
Depends on money.
I get it, Benny. Yeah. Try to get to Chicago one year because it's a totally different vibe.
Yeah.
It's spacious. It's chill. It's not so crammed and like it is in New York. And I think you and Julie would really like it out there because it's much more slow speed and it's not like you're jammed at that little small hotel. Even it's in,
for sure.
So
for sure.
Keep your eyes peeled on that.
Okay.
Benji, what's cooking on the Instagram, buddy?
Well, soon, hopefully, Andy and Vinyl Benjy will go on record hunting together in New York City.
We will do that. We will do that.
I mean, but also, it's just going to be usual content. It's not like I have any big plans at the moment. I recently, about 6 months ago, I started a full-time job in person. So it's been a huge shift and change of pace for Vinyl Benjy. I'm still doing it, but I'm not able to give the same amount of effort into my videos and whatnot as I once had. But I'm still trying to make sure I post and do some stories. I'm trying to incorporate things like I'm still adding my bagel time and I'm still posting random things in my story I feel like sharing. That's the thing about Vinyl Benjy, and I'm sure I've told you guys this before. Vinyl Benjy is not an act; it's not a persona. That's me.
Absolutely, buddy.
So I truly love bagels so damn much. I can eat a bagel every day. I'm a New Yorker, you know.
Absolutely. We need to see a real Instagram from all your copies of McCartney 3. That's what we should see.
I've done that before.
You have?
Oh yeah, I've done a video.
Do you have every vinyl copy of McCartney 3? Okay.
No, but I've got enough.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
No, but for real, I'm just gonna keep posting, keep sharing my love of music, keep saying, hello, my friends. This is Vinyl Benjy, and just gonna keep having fun with it. And Andy, hopefully we'll go record hunting soon, and I'll do a vlog about it or something.
Let's do it. We'll go. The summer is young, buddy. We will go on a weekend and do it.
Andy, if I can share one thing before we wrap,
Please.
I was thinking about this thing that somebody said when Brian passed. A friend of mine commented on a post I did about it, and it just is stuck with me. So I was looking for it, and I thought it was really pertinent and really spot on. So I just wanted to share it with y'all.
Please.
He said, when Brian Wilson was a young man, too young to know to look away, God looked him in the eye and winked. And Brian spent the rest of his life trying to share what that felt like through his music. And that just made me kind of like go, oh, Jesus Christ, that's exactly it. Like, he was trying to share something that, few people understand and can see and can feel. And he spent his whole life trying to share that with everybody else, which is what a gift.
And on that note, can I tell you a story? And this is something I shared on my post about the first time I saw Brian Wilson live. And this moment from this concert, I think in hindsight really captures Brian Wilson's essence. He played Pet Sounds live at this music festival in Brooklyn I went to. And when he got to God Only Knows, it was just this incredible, beautiful moment, emotional. To me, it felt like God giving the 10 Commandments to Moses and the people of Israel on Mount Sinai. It kind of felt like that, because the guy who wrote it, singing it to you, it's just unreal.
Mm-hmm.
And I still can't even describe how I felt that day. But then, and then that song, but afterwards, he sang Row, Row, Row Your Boat.
Yep.
That shows you Brian Wilson's, his genius, his humor, and, and the various methods he's used. I guess to quote the story, the post Jonathan was referencing, he took many different paths, many different ideas to describe that feeling, whether it be heartfelt music or a bit of humor or everything in between. Brian Wilson was fearless in that sense. And I think that's one of the reasons why he gave us such incredible music all these years.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We are a better world for it. I can't thank you both enough for sharing your stories today and your thoughts and your feelings on all the wonderful music he gave us. As Dennis likes to say, he said, Brian Wilson is the Beach Boys. We're just his messengers. And that's the truth. And that is the absolute truth. And that's the music that this man gave us. And listen, Brian, thank you for everything you gave us in your life.
Amen to that.
Benjy and Jonathan, thank you guys so much for being here on a very special non-Paul McCartney episode of Two Legs. I really appreciate it. And we'll be back soon with more Macca content coming your way. So for Jonathan and for Vinyl Benjy, this is Andy Nichols from Two Legs signing off. Have a good night, everybody. Take care.